The war had lasted 30 years. 30 long years of blood, fire, and screaming metal in the darkness of space. Admiral Taeyang Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the holographic display showing the wreckage of the latest battle. Human ships floated among Vralthic vessels, all silent now, all dead. Taeyang was 53 years old, but he looked 70. The war had taken everything from him. His wife, his 2 children, his home city, turned to glass by Vralthic orbital bombardment. He had nothing left except his duty and his hatred for the creatures who had destroyed his life. The Vralthic Empire was a monster. They had conquered 17 star systems before they met humanity. Each time they followed the same pattern. First, they attacked without warning. Then, after years of brutal warfare, they offered peace. And every species that accepted their peace offer disappeared within 5 years. Gone. Extinct. Written out of history like they never existed. But humanity was different. Humans fought back harder than anyone expected. New weapons appeared every few months. New tactics that made the Vralthic strategists tear their fur out in frustration. Plasma shields that turned their energy weapons useless. Quantum strikes that appeared from nowhere and destroyed their supply depots. For the first time in their history, the Vralthic were losing. That was when the message arrived. Lieutenant Jiwan Yoon brought the decoded transmission to Taeyang's ready room. She was young, only 28, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had joined the fleet right out of academy, and the war was all she had ever known. "It's from the Vralthic Emperor himself, sir," Jiwan said, placing the datapad on his desk. "He wants a peace summit immediately." Taeyang picked up the pad and read. The message was surprisingly short. The Emperor proposed an immediate ceasefire. A formal peace treaty. The Vralthic would withdraw from 12 disputed systems. All human prisoners would be returned. The treaty would be signed at their capital world, Vralthon Prime, in the sacred chamber of eternal accord. "It's a trap," Taeyang said without hesitation. "Yes, sir," Jiwan agreed. "But Earth Command wants us to accept anyway." Taeyang looked at his young officer. She had the same tired eyes he saw in the mirror every morning. The war had aged all of them. 3 days later, the delegation assembled at Earth Command headquarters in Geneva. Ambassador Mina Park arrived first. She was 45, elegant in her diplomatic robes with gray hair she refused to dye. She had negotiated treaties with 15 alien species before the war started. Now she negotiated prisoner exchanges and casualty reports. Dr. Yoonji Han came next. She was the smartest person Taeyang had ever met. A xenolinguist who could speak 27 alien languages and read cultural patterns like other people read books. She was thin, almost fragile-looking, but her mind was sharp as broken glass. Captain Daehyun Choi arrived last, moving like a shadow despite his heavy combat armor. He commanded Ghost Protocol, humanity's most secret military unit. If you needed something stolen, someone killed, or a facility destroyed without anyone knowing you were there, you called Daehyun. They gathered in a secure conference room, surrounded by armed guards and electronic jammers. The President of Earth herself attended via secure hologram. "Dr. Han," the President said. "Your report, please." Yoonji activated a holographic display. Images of ancient Vralthic texts appeared floating in the air. "The Chamber of Eternal Accord is not what they claim it is," she began. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I've analyzed every reference to this chamber in their historical archives. Every species that signed a treaty there is now extinct." "Every single one?" Mina asked. "All 14 of them," Yoonji confirmed. "The pattern is consistent. Peace treaty signed. Within 5 years, total extinction. The Vralthic don't even hide it. They record these extinctions as victories in their military databases." She brought up architectural scans of the chamber. The chamber itself is a weapon. Hidden gas vents. Energy weapon mounts in the ceiling. Pressure plates that trigger lockdown protocols. Once you're inside and the doors close, there's no escape. It's an execution chamber disguised as a temple. Silence filled the room. Taeyang felt his hands curl into fists. "So they invite our entire leadership to their capital," Mina said slowly. "Murder all of us in one strike, then invade Earth while we're leaderless and in chaos." "Exactly," Yoonji said. Daehyun leaned forward. "Then we refuse. We continue the war." "We can't," the President said. "Earth's populations are exhausted. Our economy is collapsing. We've lost 3 billion people. If we refuse this summit, the Vralthic will use it as propaganda. They'll tell the galaxy that humanity rejected peace. Other species might even join them against us. Then what do you suggest? Taiyang asked, though he already knew the answer. The president smiled. It was not a nice smile. We accept their invitation. We go to their capital. We walk into their trap, and then we spring our own. Mina looked skeptical. How? They'll scan us for weapons. They'll control every aspect of the summit. We'll be in the middle of their empire, surrounded by their military. Daehyun's smile matched the president's. Good. Let them think they've won. Meanwhile, my team has been operating on Vralthon Prime for 3 months already. We've mapped their defenses, compromised their computer systems, planted equipment in locations they don't even know exist. And, Taeyang added, we have 50 stealth warships that can slip past their sensors. They'll never see us coming until it's too late. Yoonji pulled up medical schematics. We can also weaponize our own bodies. Nanosurgery to implant weapons directly into our skeletal structure. Plasma emitters. Shield generators. Neural disruptors. We'll pass their scanners because we won't be carrying weapons. We'll be weapons. The president looked at each of them. This will be dangerous. Many of you might not come back. But if we succeed, we end this war on our terms. We show the galaxy that humanity cannot be trapped, cannot be exterminated. That we survive not because we're the strongest, but because we're the smartest and the most prepared. When do we leave? Mina asked. 3 days, the president said. The Vralthic want this summit to happen quickly. They're afraid we'll discover their trap if they give us too much time. They're right to be afraid, Taeyang said quietly. The next 72 hours were chaos. Medical teams worked around the clock, implanting weapons into the delegates' bodies. The procedures were painful, but no one complained. Daehyun's Ghost Protocol operatives sent constant updates from Vralthon Prime, mapping every corridor, every guard rotation, every possible escape route. Jiwon coordinated the stealth fleet. 50 warships, each equipped with the latest cloaking technology, began their journey to Vralthic space. They would arrive hours before the summit, hiding in the shadow of Vralthon Prime's moon. On the final night, Taeyang stood alone in his quarters, looking at a photograph. His wife, his children, all gone. He touched the image gently. I'll make them pay, he whispered. I promise. The diplomatic transport ships were ready. On the outside, they looked elegant and peaceful, painted with symbols of Earth and decorated with flowers. Inside, they carried enough weaponry to level a city. As they boarded, Mina walked beside Taeyang. Do you think we can really pull this off? She asked. Taeyang looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, the Vralthic were preparing their trap. They thought they were so clever. Thought they had humanity figured out. They were about to learn they were very, very wrong. We're human, Taeyang said. We don't walk into traps. We turn them into weapons. The ships departed Earth carrying humanity's hope and humanity's revenge in equal measure. Behind them, billions watched and prayed. Ahead of them, the Vralthic Empire waited with bared teeth and hidden knives. And in the cold darkness between stars, 50 human warships moved silently toward their target, invisible and deadly as shadows. The war was about to end, one way or another. Part 2, the human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vralthan system. Through the viewports, the Vralthic homeworld looked beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked almost like Earth, which made Taeyang hate it even more. Receiving docking instructions, Admiral, Jiwon reported from her station. They're directing us to the diplomatic landing platforms. Security forces are already assembled to greet us. Of course they are, Taeyang muttered. They want to make sure we don't run. He looked at the tactical display. The 50 stealth warships were already in position, hiding behind the system's outer moon. The Vralthic sensors showed nothing. As far as the enemy knew, humanity had sent only 3 unarmed diplomatic vessels. Perfect. The ships descended through the atmosphere. Vralthon Prime's capital city stretched below them, a massive sprawl of crystalline towers and floating platforms. Millions of Vralthic citizens lived here, the heart of an empire that had destroyed worlds. The landing was smooth. As the ramp lowered, Taeyang could see the Vralthic Welcome Committee, thousands of them dressed in ceremonial robes holding banners of peace. Music played. Children waved. It looked like a celebration. They're good actors, Mina said, standing beside him. She wore elegant diplomatic robes, her face calm and professional. No one would guess she had plasma emitters surgically implanted in her wrists. So are we, Taeyang replied. He stepped onto the ramp, smiling and waving at the crowd. The Vralthic High Chancellor approached. He was tall, covered in silver fur with 4 arms and eyes that glowed amber. His name was Vrekoth. An intelligence report said he personally oversaw the extinction of 6 species. Admiral Kim, Ambassador Park, welcome to Vralthon Prime, Vrekoth said in perfect English. His voice was smooth, friendly. We are honored by your presence. This day marks the beginning of a new era of peace between our peoples. We share your hope for peace, Chancellor, Mina replied, her diplomatic training showing. Humanity values life above all things. We are eager to end this terrible conflict, liar, Taeyang thought. But Mina's face showed nothing but sincerity. The procession began. Human delegates walked through streets lined with cheering Vralthic crowds. Flowers rained down from balconies. Holographic displays showed images of Earth and Vralthon Prime side by side, with the words peace and harmony floating between them. But Jiwon, walking 2 steps behind Taeyang, was scanning everything with her neural implants. What she saw made her blood run cold. Admiral, she whispered through their private comm channel, these aren't civilians. Every person in this crowd has military-grade muscle density and combat training markers. This entire parade is made up of soldiers in civilian clothes. How many? Taeyang asked, still smiling and waving. At least 5,000 in visual range. Probably more outside it. Taeyang's smile didn't waver. Note their positions. Send the data to Captain Choi. Somewhere in the city, hidden among genuine Vralthic civilians, Daehyun received the data. His Ghost Protocol team had been embedded here for months, slowly gathering intelligence and planting equipment. Now they moved into their final positions. Daehyun looked like a Vralthic merchant, thanks to holographic disguise technology and careful body language mimicry. He walked through a maintenance tunnel beneath the Chamber of Eternal Accord, carrying what appeared to be simple repair tools. They weren't tools, they were nanite deployment devices. Team 1 status, he whispered into his secure comm. Gas vents are mapped and ready for neutralization, a voice replied. Team 2, sealing weapons are identified. Electromagnetic pulse generators in position. Team 3, emergency extraction tunnels are ready. Explosives placed at all key support columns. Daehyun smiled grimly. Good. When this trap springs, we'll be ready. That evening, the Vralthic Emperor hosted a state banquet. The hall was magnificent, with tables made of living crystal and food that glowed with bioluminescence. Hundreds of dignitaries attended, both Vralthic and from other alien species that had treaties with the Empire. Taeyang found himself seated across from General Krethak, the supreme military commander of Vralthic forces. This was the creature that had ordered the bombardment of Taeyang's home city, the one who had killed his family. Krethak's eyes were cold and intelligent. Admiral Kim, I have studied your tactics extensively. You are a worthy opponent. As are you, General, Taeyang replied, keeping his voice neutral. Every instinct screamed at him to attack, but he forced himself to stay calm. Tomorrow will be historic, Krethak continued. The Chamber of Eternal Accord has witnessed many great moments, many final moments. The emphasis on final was not subtle. Across the table, Dr. Yunji pretended to study her food while listening carefully. In Vralthic language, Krethak had actually used a word that meant both final and extinction, a deliberate choice. He was bragging about their plan, confident the humans wouldn't understand. But Yunji understood perfectly. She caught Taeyang's eye and gave the tiniest nod. Taeyang raised his glass. A toast, then. To the Chamber of Eternal Accord, may everyone who enters find exactly what they deserve. The Vralthic around the table laughed and drank. They thought he was accepting his fate like a good victim. The humans at the table also drank, knowing exactly what Taeyang meant. The Vralthic would indeed get what they deserved. After the banquet, the human delegation was escorted to luxurious guest quarters. The rooms were beautiful, with views of the city and every comfort imaginable. They were also certainly monitored. Mina gathered the core team in her suite. They activated a portable jamming device that Daehyun had smuggled in, creating a bubble of privacy. We have a problem, Jiwon said, pulling up a holographic schematic. The Vralthic have added new security to the chamber entrance. Bioscanners that will detect any artificial materials. Our implanted weapons will be discovered. Can we bypass them? Taeyang asked. Not without alerting them, Jiwon said. Silence fell over the group. They had planned for many contingencies, but not this. Then Yunji spoke up. We need to go deeper. Not implant the weapons, but integrate them. Make them part of our actual biology. Weapons grown from our own cells using nanoconstruction. Is that even possible? Mina asked. It's experimental, Yunji admitted. And extremely painful, but yes. We can do it in 6 hours if we start now. Taeyang looked at his team. These people had followed him through 30 years of war. They had lost friends, family, everything. And now he was asking them to undergo experimental surgery that might kill them. I won't order this, he said quietly. This is volunteer only. Every single person in the room raised their hand. Then let's begin, Yunji said. The surgery was agony. Nanomachines rebuilt their bones, muscle, and nervous systems from the inside. Plasma channels grew along finger bones. Energy storage nodes formed in their ribs. Neural enhancers wove through their brains. When it was over, they were no longer quite human. Or maybe they were more human than ever because they had adapted to survive. Dawn came, the day of the signing ceremony. Taeyang stood before a mirror in his quarters, dressed in his formal uniform. He looked the same as always. But beneath his skin, he carried enough weaponry to fight a small war. There was a knock at his door. Mina entered, also in formal attire. Ready? She asked. As ready as I'll ever be, Taeyang replied. They walked together through the corridors of the guest quarters. Other delegates joined them, all smiling, all calm. No one watching would suspect that each of them was a walking arsenal. The Chamber of Eternal Accord rose before them, a massive structure of black stone and crystal, beautiful, ancient, deadly. Vralthic honor guards lined the approach, their weapons concealed but certainly present. The bioscanners hummed at the entrance, analyzing every person who passed through. The scanners detected nothing. The weapons were too deeply integrated, too much a part of the delegates' bodies now to register as foreign. As they entered the chamber, Taeyang sent a single encrypted signal to the stealth fleet waiting in orbit. 3 words. We are ready. The trap was set. On both sides, and in the next few hours one of them would close. The Chamber of Eternal Accord was even more impressive inside than outside. The ceiling rose 100 meters high, covered in carved obsidian that seemed to absorb light. Holographic banners floated through the air, showing the flags of Earth and Vralthon side by side. 10,000 beings filled the space, representatives from dozens of species who had come to witness this historic moment, or what they thought would be historic. Most of them had no idea they were sitting in an execution chamber. Taeyang walked down the central aisle with the rest of the human delegation. Cameras followed them. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching this broadcast. He kept his face calm and friendly, like a man about to sign a peace treaty. Inside, his heart pounded like a war drum. Jiwan walked behind him, her enhanced vision scanning everything. The pressure plates beneath the floor tiles, the gas vents hidden in the decorative columns, the energy weapons mounted in what looked like light fixtures. Every detail matched Yunji's intelligence. This was definitely a trap, but Daehyun's nanites were already in position. Invisible machines smaller than bacteria spread throughout the chamber, ready to neutralize every weapon system the Vralthic had installed. The central platform rose from the floor, made of crystal that glowed with inner light. 2 podiums faced each other. At one stood the Vralthic Emperor, tall and regal in his ceremonial armor. At the other stood Ambassador Mina, elegant in her diplomatic robes. Between them lay the treaty, a data tablet that held the agreement both sides had supposedly negotiated. The treaty that would end 30 years of war. The treaty that the Vralthic planned would be signed in human blood. The Emperor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Ambassador Park, are you ready to make history? Mina picked up the signing stylus. For a moment she just looked at it. Then she looked directly into the Emperor's eyes and spoke in perfect Vralthic, using the formal dialect reserved for challenges between warriors. Before we sign, Your Majesty, I must ask a question. In your culture, the Chamber of Eternal Accord is considered sacred, yes? A place where treaties bind the souls of those who sign them? The Emperor's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Of course. This chamber has witnessed many great moments in Vralthic history. I'm sure it has, Mina said softly. 14 other species signed treaties here. All of them are now extinct. Tell me, Your Majesty, is that coincidence? Or tradition? The chamber went completely silent. Every Vralthic in the room suddenly understood. The humans knew. They had figured it out. The Emperor's eyes went cold. He made a small gesture with one hand. A signal. The massive doors of the chamber slammed shut with a sound like thunder. Magnetic locks engaged, sealing everyone inside. Warning lights flashed red. And from vents hidden in the columns, gas began to hiss into the chamber. The trap had sprung. Panic erupted among the watching delegates. Aliens screamed and rushed toward the doors, only to find them locked. The gas spread quickly, a pale green mist that smelled like burning metal. But the humans didn't panic. They stood calmly, breathing normally, because the gas wasn't reaching them. Dahyun's nanites were already neutralizing it, breaking down the toxic molecules before they could affect anyone. The green mist simply vanished around the human delegation, like water hitting an invisible shield. The Emperor stared in disbelief. "How? You really thought we'd walk into your trap unprepared?" Taeyang said, stepping forward. "You studied us for 30 years and learned nothing. Humans don't give up. We adapt." The Emperor snarled and made another gesture. The ceiling panel slid open, revealing energy weapons. Dozens of them, all aimed at the humans. They charged with a distinctive whine, building power for a devastating strike. Jiwon smiled. It was not a nice smile. She activated her neural implants, sending a carefully crafted electromagnetic pulse through the chamber. The energy weapons overloaded instantly. Sparks flew. Circuit boards melted. One by one, they exploded in cascades of fire and debris. The Vralthic guard stationed near them dove for cover as shrapnel rained down. "You wanted to kill us with your chamber?" Jiwon said. "We've turned it into scrap metal." The Emperor roared orders in his own language. Vralthic honor guards rushed forward from all sides, hundreds of them, armed with plasma rifles and shock batons. They thought they faced unarmed diplomats. They were wrong. Taeyang raised his hand. The bio-integrated weapons activated. Blue plasma erupted from his fingertips, precise beams that struck 3 guards before they could even aim their rifles. They fell. Their armor melted through. Mina's elegant robes tore away as combat armor unfolded from beneath them. She moved with deadly grace, her implanted weapons firing in perfect rhythm. Each shot found its target. Each target fell. Yunji activated her sonic disruptor. The sound was beyond human hearing, but to the Vralthic with their enhanced auditory systems, it was agony. Dozens of guards dropped their weapons and clutched their heads, blood streaming from their ears. And then Daehyun's Ghost Protocol team emerged from hidden access panels throughout the chamber. They had been there all along, invisible, waiting. Now they struck from every direction at once. The battle was brutal and fast. The Vralthic had numbers, but the humans had surprise, superior positioning, and weapons the enemy didn't know existed. In less than 3 minutes, 200 Vralthic guards lay dead or unconscious. The Emperor retreated to a fortified platform at the back of the chamber. Force fields sprang up around him, layered shields that could stop anything short of a nuclear blast. He laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. "Clever, humans. You've won this battle, but you've lost the war. While you celebrate your small victory here, my invasion fleet is already halfway to Earth. Your homeworld will burn. Your families will die. You've accomplished nothing." Taeyang walked calmly toward the Emperor's platform, stepping over bodies. "Your invasion fleet? The one that launched 6 hours ago?" The Emperor's confidence flickered. "Yes, 3,000 warships. More than enough to overwhelm your defenses." "Had," Taeyang corrected. "You had 3,000 warships." Past tense, G1 activated a holographic display. It showed deep space, the route between Vralthon Prime and Earth. And scattered along that route were debris fields, thousands of wrecked ships still burning. "We seeded that entire corridor with proximity mines 2 weeks ago," G1 explained. "Your fleet flew right into them. At their speed, they had no time to react. No time to even send a distress signal. They're all gone." The Emperor's face went pale beneath his fur. "No, that's not possible. You couldn't have—" "We could," Mina said. "And we did. While you were planning to trap us, we were planning to trap you. Every move you made, we anticipated. Every weapon you prepared, we countered. You thought you were hunting us, but we were hunting you all along." Taeyang activated another display. This one showed Vralthon Prime's orbital space. 50 human warships decloaked simultaneously, their weapons powered and aimed at the planet. "Your planetary defense grid," Taeyang said. "We've been inside it for weeks. Captain Choi's team has full control. Your defense satellites answer to us now, not you." "Your command codes?" Daehyun added, stepping out of the shadows. "Cracked 3 days ago. We can activate or deactivate any military system on this planet. You have no defenses, no escape, and no options. The Emperor looked around desperately. His guards were defeated. His weapons were destroyed. His invasion fleet was gone. His home world was at humanity's mercy. For the first time in Vralthic history, they had been completely outmaneuvered. "This is impossible," the Emperor whispered. "We are Vralthic. We are the hunters. We are the conquerors. You keep saying what we can't do," Taiyang said, his voice hard as steel. "But we keep doing it anyway. That's the difference between us. You rely on patterns, on traditions, on doing things the way they've always been done. We adapt, we evolve, we survive." He walked right up to the force field, close enough that he could see his reflection in the Emperor's terrified eyes. "Here are the new terms," Taiyang said. "Total disarmament. Your military will be reduced to defense forces only, and we will monitor everything. War reparations paid to every species you've harmed. And most importantly, you will broadcast your surrender across every system in this sector." "And if I refuse?" the Emperor asked weakly. Taiyang's expression didn't change. "Then 50 human warships currently in orbit will reduce your capital city to rubble, followed by every major population center on your planet, followed by your colonies. We will burn your empire to ash and scatter it across space. Your choice." The Emperor looked at Taiyang's face and saw the truth there. This human was not bluffing. He had lost his family to Vralthic weapons. He had spent 30 years fighting, and he was absolutely willing to destroy an entire civilization if that's what it took to ensure humanity's survival. The force field dropped. The Emperor stepped down from his platform, moving like an old, broken creature. He knelt before Taiyang, the ultimate symbol of defeat in Vralthic culture. "I surrender," he said quietly. "The Vralthic Empire surrenders unconditionally to humanity." Mina stepped forward with a new data pad. Not the false treaty they had come to sign, but a real one. One that humanity had written. One that protected Earth and punished the Vralthic for their crimes. Part 4. 3 months had passed since the Chamber of Eternal Accord. 3 months since the Vralthic Empire fell to its knees. 3 months since humanity proved it could not be trapped, could not be broken, could not be stopped. The galaxy was still processing what had happened. Taiyang stood on the observation deck of Earth Station Alpha, watching ships come and go. Merchant vessels from a dozen species, diplomatic shuttles, construction drones rebuilding the damage from 30 years of war. The station buzzed with activity, a symbol of humanity's new place in the galaxy, but it had cost them. 300 human delegates and soldiers had died in the chamber battle. Captain Daehyun had lost half his Ghost Protocol team. Dr. Yoonji was still recovering from injuries, her leg rebuilt with cybernetics after a plasma blast nearly killed her. Victory was never clean. Victory always had a price. "Admiral Kim?" Taiyang turned. A young officer stood at attention. "Earth Council wants to speak with you, sir. Secure channel." Taiyang nodded and made his way to the communications center. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the faces of the council members. President Suyeon Min sat at the center, her expression serious. "Admiral," she began, "we need to discuss what happens next." "The Vralthic are complying with the treaty terms," Taiyang reported. "They're dismantling their military as agreed. Reparations are being processed. The transition is going smoothly. That's not what concerns us," another council member said. It was Councillor Hemin Kwan, leader of the peace movement. "What concerns us is how other species are reacting to what we did." Suyeon activated a star map. Different systems were marked in various colors. "The Threxian Republic wants an alliance with us. They're impressed by our military capability and see us as potential protectors. Green, sectors, allies. But the Quellan hive mind and the Morvathi collective have both cancelled diplomatic talks with Earth. They say we're too aggressive, too paranoid, too dangerous. They fear we'll do to them what we did to the Vralthic. Red sectors. Fearful, potentially hostile. And then there are the Vralthic slave species," Yemen continued. 6 different civilizations that were conquered by the Empire. They've all revolted, inspired by what we did. Civil wars are breaking out across former Vralthic space. Yellow sectors, chaos. "What are you asking me, Madam President?" Taiyang said. "Should we continue on this path?" Suyeon asked. "We won through military strength and paranoid preparation. But now half the galaxy sees us as dangerous. Some want us as allies, some want us gone. We need to decide what kind of civilization we want to be." Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm not the person to ask. I'm a soldier. I know how to fight. I know how to win. But building peace? That's someone else's job. Are you resigning?" Suyeon asked. "Yes," Taeyang said. "I've served for 30 years. I've done what I needed to do. Now it's time for someone else to lead, someone who can build instead of destroy." The council members looked at each other. Finally, Suyeon nodded. "We understand, Admiral. You've earned your rest. Thank you for your service." The connection ended. Taeyang stood alone in the communications room, feeling lighter than he had in decades. The war was over. His duty was done. He could finally rest. But first he had one more visit to make. The medical center was bright and clean, full of advanced technology that could heal almost any injury. Dr. Eun-ji-han sat in a recovery chair, her new cybernetic leg visible beneath her hospital gown. She was reading something on a data pad, her face intense with concentration. "Still working?" Taeyang asked as he entered. Yoonji looked up and smiled. "Always. I'm analyzing communication patterns from the species that fear us, trying to understand what we can do to ease their concerns." Ambassador Mina was also there, sitting beside Yoonji's chair. She had been visiting every day since the battle, bringing food and books and keeping her friend company. "How are you feeling?" Taeyang asked Yoonji. "Better every day," she replied. "This new leg is actually an improvement. Better sensors, stronger materials. I might get the other one replaced too, just to match." She said it lightly, but Taeyang could see the pain behind her eyes. She had been injured saving others during the chamber battle. She was a hero, but heroes still hurt. "Did we do the right thing?" Yoonji asked suddenly. "We saved humanity by becoming exactly what we fought against. Paranoid, armed, dangerous." Mina set down her tea. "We did what we had to do. The Vralthik would have exterminated us. We proved we couldn't be trapped, couldn't be victims. But now we have a choice. We can stay armed and feared, or we can try to build something better." "Which do you think we should choose?" Taeyang asked. "Both," Mina said firmly. "We should stay armed, stay vigilant, never forget what happened. But we should also extend hands in friendship. Show that strength and peace aren't opposites. That being prepared for war doesn't mean we want war." "That's a difficult balance," Yoonji said. "Everything worth doing is difficult," Mina replied. Later that week, Taeyang took a shuttle down to Earth. Not to any military base or government building, but to a small town in the mountains. A place that had been untouched by the war, where people still lived quiet, normal lives. He had bought a small house there. Nothing fancy, just a place to rest, to remember, to heal. On his first night, he sat on the porch and looked at the stars. So many of them. So many worlds, some friendly, some hostile, some unknown. Humanity had survived, but at what cost? And what would they become? Meanwhile, on Vralthon Prime, Captain Daehyun stood in what used to be the Emperor's throne room. It was now a military tribunal, where Vralthik war criminals were being tried for their crimes. The former Emperor sat in chains, watching as evidence of his atrocities was presented. Daehyun was there as humanity's representative, ensuring the trials were fair. Many of his team had wanted revenge, wanted to execute every Vralthik leader who had ordered attacks on human worlds. But Daehyun refused. Justice, not revenge. Trials, not executions. Because becoming monsters to fight monsters meant the monsters had already won. The former emperor looked up at Daehyun. "Why?" he asked. "Why show mercy? We would have shown you none." "I know," Daehyun said. "That's exactly why we're showing it. Because we're not you. We're better than you, and we'll prove it every day." 6 months after the Chamber of Eternal Accord, Earth hosted its first major interstellar conference. 50 species sent delegates. Security was the tightest in galactic history, but it was also the most transparent. Every weapon was declared. Every defense measure was explained. Every guard was identified. Ambassador Mina, now Secretary General of the new Interstellar Council, stood before the assembled delegates. She wore simple robes, no weapons, no armor, but everyone there knew what she was capable of. "We learned a hard lesson," she began. "Trust without vigilance is suicide. The Vralthik taught us that, but vigilance without trust is isolation. We won't make that mistake either. So here is our proposal, a new framework for galactic diplomacy, open communication, verified disarmament, mutual protection treaties, and most importantly, no more secret chambers where treaties turn into traps. She paused, looking at each delegate. We will defend ourselves without apology. We will prepare for war while hoping for peace. We will trust but verify. We are humanity.
And we survive. The applause was cautious at first.
Then it grew. Species that had feared humanity began to understand. This wasn't a civilization of monsters. This was a civilization that refused to be victims. Lieutenant Jiwan, now promoted to captain and commander of the Diplomatic Protection Fleet, watched from the security station. Her ship surrounded the conference station, ready for anything. She hoped they wouldn't be needed. But if they were, she was ready. That was humanity's new philosophy. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and never ever walk into a trap unarmed. Back in his mountain home, Taeyang received a message. It was from Mina. Just 3 words, "We did it," Taeyang smiled. Yes, they had. They had saved humanity. They had ended a war. They had changed the galaxy, and maybe, just maybe, they had started something better. A civilization that was both strong and kind, armed and peaceful, prepared and hopeful. The stars shone down on Earth, on Vralthan Prime, on 100 worlds where beings looked up and wondered about the future. The war was over. But humanity's story was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the Chamber of Eternal Accord. 5 years since humanity sprung the Vralthic trap and changed the galaxy forever. The old chamber still stood on Vralthan Prime, but it was different now. The weapons had been removed, the gas vents sealed, the kill systems dismantled and put in a museum as a warning. The building was now called the Hall of Hard Lessons, a place where species could learn from the past. Today was the 5th anniversary. Beings from across the galaxy gathered to remember what happened and to celebrate the peace that followed. Admiral Taeyang Kim, now 63 and fully retired, walked through the memorial gardens. His hair was completely white now, but his eyes were peaceful. 5 years of quiet life in the mountains had healed wounds he didn't even know he had. Taeyang! He turned to see Ambassador Mina approaching. She was now Secretary General of the Interstellar Council, the most powerful diplomatic position in known space. She looked tired but satisfied, like someone who had worked hard and seen results. It's good to see you, Taeyang said, embracing his old friend. You too. I almost didn't recognize you without the uniform. I don't miss it, Taeyang said honestly. Someone else can lead now. I've done my part. Captain Daehyun appeared next, though he was captain no longer. He had left military service to open an academy, teaching defensive strategy to any species that wanted to learn. His motto was simple: hope for peace, prepare for war. The old team is back together, Daehyun said with a grin. Just like old times. Except nobody's trying to kill us today. Don't jinx it, Dr. Yoonji Han said, walking up with the help of a cane. Her cybernetic leg worked perfectly, but old injuries sometimes made her cautious. She now led the Xenocultural Understanding Institute, helping species communicate without misunderstandings or hidden meanings. Admiral Jiwan Yoon was the last to arrive. She commanded the Diplomatic Protection Fleet now, ensuring that every peace summit had real security. Her ships protected diplomats across the galaxy, making sure no one else would face what humanity faced 5 years ago. All present and accounted for, she said. Shall we go inside? They entered the Hall of Hard Lessons together. The interior was beautiful now, rebuilt as a true temple of peace. But along the walls were displays showing what it used to be. The gas vents, the hidden weapons, the bodies of those who died here. A reminder. Never forget. Never become victims again. The ceremony began. Representatives from dozens of species spoke about what the chamber incident had taught them, about the dangers of deception, about the importance of verified trust, about how strength and peace could exist together. Then something unexpected happened. Mina's aide rushed to her side, whispering urgently. Her expression changed, becoming serious. She stood and approached the podium, requesting silence. I've just received a message, she announced. From a civilization we've never encountered before. They call themselves the Eternal Assembly, and they've invited us to a summit. Murmurs spread through the crowd. A new civilization? No one had detected any signs of them. They say they've been watching us for years, Mina continued. They've studied how we handled the chamber incident, and now they want to meet. But here's the interesting part. They say they're coming completely unarmed. No weapons, no defenses, nothing. The team gathered in a private room after the ceremony. Dr. Unji had already pulled up everything she could find about the message. The language was unique, clearly advanced, but contained no threats or hidden meanings. It's genuine, Unji said, at least as far as I can tell. They really do want to meet. And they really are claiming they'll arrive unarmed. It's another trap, Taiyang said immediately. His old instincts kicked in. They know we'll come armed because of what happened with the Vralthic. They're testing us. Or, Mina said slowly, they're testing whether we can move past the chamber incident, whether we can learn to trust again. That's what the Vralthic wanted us to think, Daehyun pointed out. Peace and celebration, right before the trap closed. But this is different, Unji argued. The Vralthic lied. They pretended to be peaceful while planning murder. These beings are being transparent. They're telling us exactly what they're doing. Jiwan looked at the data. If we refuse, we look paranoid, like we learned nothing from the chamber except fear. But if we go unarmed and it's a trap, we're dead. Silence filled the room. This was the question that had haunted humanity for 5 years. How do you balance trust and vigilance? How do you stay safe without becoming isolated? Finally, Taeyang spoke. We go, but we go armed. We tell them exactly what weapons we're bringing and why. No deception, no hidden agenda, armed transparency. That's a compromise, Mina said thoughtfully. We show we're willing to meet, willing to take risks, but we're honest about our caution. And we bring allies, Yunji added. Make it a coalition, 50 species all together. If it's a trap, we all fall together. If it's genuine, we all benefit together. The proposal went to the Interstellar Council. The debate was fierce. Some species argued humanity should trust completely, show they had evolved past paranoia. Others argued they should refuse, that any unknown contact was too dangerous. But the majority agreed with humanity's proposal. Send a coalition. Be armed. Be honest. Be cautious, but not cowardly. 2 weeks later, the coalition fleet assembled. 50 species all represented. Human warships alongside Threxian cruisers, Quellan bioships, and even reformed Vralthic vessels. The former enemy now flew beside humanity as allies. Admiral Jiwan commanded the fleet. She stood on her bridge, looking at the tactical display showing all the assembled ships. So much had changed in 5 years. All ships report ready, her tactical officer reported. Good, Jiwan said. Broadcast our manifest to the Eternal Assembly. Every weapon system, every defensive measure, complete transparency. The message was sent. It listed everything. Plasma cannons, energy shields, fighter squadrons, nothing hidden, nothing secret. The response came quickly. Just one line, in perfect human English. We understand. We welcome your caution. Come when ready. Ambassador Mina stood beside Taeyang on the flagship's observation deck. The old admiral had agreed to come as an advisor, though he wore civilian clothes now. Do you think we're ready for this? Mina asked. We're never ready, Taeyang replied with a small smile. But we show up anyway. That's what makes us human. The fleet jumped to faster than light, carrying humanity's new philosophy into the unknown. They were armed but honest, cautious but hopeful, ready for war but hoping for peace. In the cargo holds, Captain Daehyun checked weapon systems one more time. Old habits died hard. But this time felt different. This time they weren't hiding. They were being exactly who they were, prepared and honest. Dr. Yunji reviewed cultural protocols with the diplomatic team. They had learned so much in 5 years. How to communicate clearly, how to verify trust, how to be both strong and kind. As the fleet traveled toward their meeting with the Eternal Assembly, Mina broadcast a message to the entire coalition. It was simple, but powerful. 5 years ago, we learned a hard lesson. Trust without vigilance is suicide. But today, we choose to learn something harder. Vigilance without trust is isolation. We go forward armed not because we expect treachery, but because we respect reality. We survived the chamber by being prepared. We will thrive in this new era by being both prepared and hopeful. We are humanity and our allies. We do not choose between peace and strength. We demand both. Across 50 ships, beings from dozens of species listened. Some had fought against humanity in the past. Some had fought alongside them. All of them had learned the same lesson from the Chamber of Eternal Accord. Never be a victim, but never become what you fought against either. The destination coordinates appeared on their displays. Unknown space, unknown species, unknown intentions. But the coalition fleet traveled on, weapons ready, hearts open, minds sharp. On the flagship bridge, Admiral Jiwan gave the order she had given countless times before. But this time, it meant something different. All ships prepare for contact, weapon systems armed, diplomatic channels open. Let's show them what we've become. Taeyang watched the stars stream past, remembering his family, remembering the war, remembering the chamber. All of it had led to this moment. A moment where humanity was no longer just trying to survive. They were trying to build something better. The Eternal Assembly waited somewhere ahead. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe it was something entirely unexpected. But humanity would face it the same way they faced everything. Armed, prepared, honest, and absolutely refusing to give up. Because that was what it meant to be human, to adapt, to survive, to turn every trap into a weapon and every challenge into an opportunity. The Chamber of Eternal Accord had tried to end humanity's story. Instead, it became the beginning of something greater. A galaxy where species could be strong and peaceful, where trust was earned and verified, where peace treaties didn't require victims. As the fleet dropped out of faster than light at the meeting coordinates, they saw something incredible. A massive space station, beautiful and unarmed, just as the Eternal Assembly had promised. Ships from an unknown civilization floated peacefully nearby. No weapons, no hidden systems, just as they said. But the coalition fleet kept their weapons online, ready, just in case. A message came through.